On how things going out there, brother T. Patrick, brother Bird, how you doing, man?
Doing wonderful,
Man,
man. Another
well.
Saturday.
Man,
Yeah,
man,
it's a little gloomy here, but you know what I mean. It's all right. We're gonna make it through.
that's it,
Sun
man. Well,
shining
good.
somewhere.
I know, I know. I was looking at it. It looks like it's shining up here, so I'm not, trying to rub it in or not,
It sounds like it just a little bit, just a little bit.
but man, so man, I'm telling you, man, I'm excited about today and everything that's going on. Before we jump into our conversation, looking at Black men and the impact of mentoring, and we're going to focus in on the Greek organizations and the mentoring programs that's sponsored by the Greek organization. But before I do that, man, I have to take a moment. You all got some things going on, man. Brother Bird, you started something. What you got going on out there?
All right, what I started is what's called Bird Hunter Defense, LLC. And just with my background in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm a non-lethal training ammunition instructor. Also have certification with Sabre as far as like OC, so I'm an OC instructor as well. And so our business is looking at self-defense, situational awareness, and then firearms. Unfortunately, with COVID, I haven't been able to get my firearm certification, even though like I'm good at shooting. And then my buddy Chauncey Hunter, who's actually a Q, he's firearm certified, and he'll pretty much run the firearms portion, and I'll do like the DT, situational awareness, and really I focus on the mental aspect as well, because I can teach, because people come to me and say, what's the best punch that I do? What's the best kick? If you don't have the mentality to defend yourself, it means nothing. And so my goal is to make sure that people are safe, that when you leave your house, that you're mentally focused on your surroundings. When you're leaving your car and you're walking into Target or Walmart or whatever store, you're not parking your car and looking down and not looking around what's going around you. You're not what's called focus lock. So that's what my organization is pretty much about. I'm gonna start sending out little short videos on what you should do, what you shouldn't do in different situations. So we just kicked that off, and at a certain point, honestly, I also plan on doing some law enforcement type tactics, especially in this environment. And I thought about this last year. COVID hit and kind of pushed me back. But I think with the George Floyd, all situations that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, those controlled tactics work. So I will pretty much say the escalation tactics versus DT, defensive tactics. People think I'm gonna start playing on words that it'll make it more constructive for the future. And so, and I would just say with me, I've worked in juvenile detention and I wrestle, but there's something about being able to control somebody with the least amount of force possible. So that's what my organization is about. But I'm trying to help regular citizens and law enforcement when I can, as far as how to defend yourself, how not to use too much force, and go from there.
That's it. That's it, man. We're excited, man, and of course we're going to support you and get the information out there. And so, man, thank you for taking on this initiative. I know it was something we talked about a while ago, and so you moving in that purpose and that, and allowing your training and everything else to guide it. So, man, thank you again, brother T. Patrick, man. What's going on, man? You just wasting away, man. You losing what? How many pounds you had now, man? What's going
You know
on?
what, man? I'm down 22 pounds.
That's it.
So
Good
I
stuff.
got well, I got a little ways to go, so to get to my goal. But I've broken it down. So hopefully by the end of next week, early beginning of the week after, I'll be at my next goal, which is about 8 pounds away. So trying to be down 30 pounds, and then I'm gonna keep going from there. So I'm excited about that. I mean, it's just a part of the 2-3 year plan, right? The first year was finances, and then this year is health. I got to figure out what else I'm gonna do for the third year, but there's still some time to figure that out. But just again, breaking life down in bite-sized pieces, man. So that's been exciting. Spending a lot of money getting this house together, but other than that, you know, not much.
Hey,
That's
that
it,
fitness
man. Hey,
component is important.
that's it, isn't it, man? Just the idea, he said, a 3-year plan. And how often do we not plan to be successful, right? We just hope that it happens. But taking on those chunks and those critical areas, I think that's critical for us as men to be able to plan. And so, and that health is really important. I know that for myself, been focusing in on better eating habits, things like that. And so that's going to be critical, man. So our hats off to you for you encourage me. Sometimes you shame me. I'm sitting there reading your posts and I'm, eating that bowl of black walnut ice cream. And I'm sitting there like, man, I should be doing right now, so.
Yeah. Once I hit 30 pounds down, then I can have ice cream again. So you know what I mean. That's what I'm working towards. That next goal is to be able to eat. I can have some of that ice cream. So
that's it. Hey, real quick, I want to invite all the brothers, man. I know you all see them on the screen, and they've been waiting patiently and quietly. But I'm gonna bring all the brothers, man. Join us on this conversation. We got men from Phi Alpha Fraternity, man. We got men for Kappa Alpha Psi. We got men from Omega Psi Phi. We have men from the great, I'm kind of biased, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. We have men for Iota Phi Theta. We got all the brothers from the Divine Nine that's represented here this morning, man. Make some noise, brothers. Let me hear you. How you doing?
Ow.
That's it, man. I tell you, man. Some of them a little bit quiet, man. They're not used to this virtual excitement. It's men. That's it. Make some noise,
yo,
man.
Blue Phi. No.
We got something for you today, brothers, because man, it's exciting to bring the men together. Whenever we could come together, it's just exciting, period. But when we can come together and talk about something as critical as we have today, which is talking about mentoring our young Black men, there's no greater purpose than that, than to give back to the next generation, man. So I'm excited to be able to reach out to my brothers within the Greek organization. Also, I know I got some double brothers that's on here right now that are part of Prince Hall Masonry, man. So we're excited to have this conversation today, man. And so we're not going to prolong it. We got brothers that we got folks that's joining in. They're excited also. So let's start it off. To represent Phi Alpha, we have Brother Aaron Willis and Brother Keenan Morrison. To represent Omega Psi Phi, we have Brother Barry Evans. To represent Kappa Alpha Psi, we have Brother Terry Tyler. And to represent Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity, we have Brother Larry Hemingway and Brother Gregory Wilson. And then, of course, Brother T. Patrick and I, we're part of member Phi Beta Sigma. And then also to represent Iota Phi Theta, he's not really stepping in that capacity because, believe it or not, Brother Bird had his own mentoring organization for young men, right? And so we want to have this conversation today and just really, man, just open up some dialogue about this and educate the people that's out there in Facebook land, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and all that other good stuff that we're talking about today. So I'm going to start it off with this. I'm going to start off and I'm going to ask Brother Aaron Willis if he would just introduce himself to the people, man, share a little bit about yourself so they'll know who's talking today and who's joining them in their lives.
All right. Well, again, good morning, world. My name is Aaron Willis, and I am a member of Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I currently serve as the associate editor to the Sphinx, which is the publication of the organization. Also serve in the Alpha Mentoring Program Committee, and I work in the educational field.
Right.
So that is what really gives me a passion to work with youth, because I deal with it every day. And, I always tell people, there's 24 hours within the day, right? But as far as our youth, you got to think about the time that they're not sleeping, the time they're not in the school setting. A lot of times those things can affect them and have a heavy influence that either we may have to be challenged by. So again, that's what gives me the passion to do what I do, because all the time I'm working with them.
Man, our hats off to you as an educator, man. And what grade level do you work with, Brother Willis?
I'm in high school.
Primarily
sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
Okay.
So really the seniors, what I'm excited about with them is that I tell them always, I'm trying to prepare you not just for where you're at here, but outside of once you graduate and go into that post-secondary world, whether it's in the, college field or work field or whatever it is. So I always get excited about them to prepare them on to transition.
That's it, man. That's
Yes,
it. That's critical work, man. And once again, our hats off. Thank you for joining us today. And so, man, we gonna bring in your brother, man, the Black and Gold, brother Keenan Morrison. What's going on, man? How you doing today? Talk to us.
I'm doing great, my brother. How you doing today? I'm happy to be here.
Likewise, man. So tell us a little bit about you.
Man, I do a lot. My name's Keenan Morrison. I am a member of Phi Alpha Fraternity for 24 years as of this month in the fraternity. Crossed the burning sands in spring '97 down at University of Missouri Rolla, now known as Missouri S&T.
All right.
I have been educator for 20 years as a middle school math teacher. I'm a deacon, I'm a landlord, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a mentor, I'm a father. You know, I do a lot, man. But most importantly, dear to me, I am a servant of the people. And so I've been mentoring, I mean, outside of education, you know, because that, you know, being an educator is the next thing closest to the barber in the Black community, a little bit of everything, you know.
That's it.
But I've been doing it for about 12 years now. So
right. That's it, man. That's it. So you say you're in the middle school,
yes,
and
sir.
You're in St. Louis, right? You're in the St. Louis area, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I've been teaching for 20 years in the public school system and the charter school system.
All right.
I am also the founder and CEO of The Village, which is a mentoring program that started out with one young man that I actually just had dinner with last night. He's 23 now. I met him when he was in 6th grade. And we work in partnership of the Alpha Mentoring Program. And I am a product of the Alpha Mentoring Program out of Chicago. Right. So this is dear to my heart.
That's it. You know, man, I've got to take a moment and ask a question. So it seems to me that math and science has always been your forte. Why do you think so many young African-American male students struggle in the area of math? And what do you, just a real quick, a strategy you think could help us with working with young African-American male men in math?
Honestly, one is exposure. Because I don't think mathematics is the challenge, because every time you go to the grocery store, you're performing algebra. So you don't embarrass yourself at the register. So I'm going to put that back. You know, that's embarrassing, but that's algebra without knowing it. And so what we need to do is we need to expose these young men to the application, you know, the real life and what we do with it. We do it. We just don't recognize we do it. And so once we make that connection, man, the whole world will open up.
Powerful, man. And so we're hoping to have more conversations and be able to bring out some of these strategies, man. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, sir.
And so now, man, we got the brother of Kappa Alpha Psi. And so I'm kind of going in order of how you know we were founded, you know, and giving respect to, you know, to the order of founding, you know, because I could have went the other way, you know, but
you really could have. It's okay.
Brother Terry Tyler, what's going on, man? Join us.
Good morning, brothers. Glad to be here. I'm Terry Tyler, part of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated with the St. Louis Alumni Chapter. I actually in the IT infrastructure technology world as senior project manager. I also involved heavily within my church organization. It's a lot of outreach. I have a program that's called Scholarship Search, help the new juniors and seniors prepare for the next level of college and not to become spending habits, financially impacted once you get out of college, debt per se. Also, I work with the Kappa mentors from the Guide program, which is our national program, but from the national program stems from the Kappa League, which is our mentoring program. And I've been doing that for about 6 years. I work with from 6th to 12th grade.
Oh man, that is awesome. That's what I'm talking about, man. And that IT area is another booming field. Me being in higher education, I see the impact and how we're moving. Everything is, now I'll say this on my preferences before I said, I don't think that we're ever going to get rid of those hands-on jobs. I think we got to invest more into those, but we also know that the IT world is growing and it's not going backwards, especially with things we saw with with COVID and the pandemic and schools happen to be virtual. And I know I wish I had some Zoom stock before all this happened. But
So do I. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Man,
It's just
I'm
moving
like,
forward.
for real, so I'm hoping, man, we could join in that conversation and really talk a little bit more, especially about their scholarship search, because that's
Sure.
critical. Being able to fund college where students don't leave out of there with all this debt. And those of us who went to college, we know about that debt, man. Those are that debt is the debt you can't get rid of. They'll show up at your funeral looking over the casket, talking about you there. Make sure that you're really gone. Make sure. And then they'll stop the service and ask, so who taking this on? Which one of y'all crying gonna take this on? Man, we're excited to have you, man. And so we got Brother Barry Evans, Omega Psi Phi. What's going on, Brother Evans? How you doing, man?
From Omega Psi Phi, greetings, brothers, from all of the fraternities. And I have to put my other hat on. I, too, am a member of Claude F.Y.'s Lodge number 171, Most Worshipful Prince, All Grand Lodge of Missouri. So I am one of those dual brothers you're talking about. I am a Mason as well as a member of Omega Psi Phi. I want to talk about this mentoring program. I'm excited to be here. I thank God that I can talk to you in this vein. I am the chairman of the 12th annual Invitational Fraternity Softball Tournament. And what we're going to add to this year's tournament is a requirement for all of our mentoring programs to be out, because our community does not, I found out, our community does not know about the Kappa League. I'm here with Project Manhood. That's why I'm wearing my purple and gold. But Lights of Alpha, Sigma Beta, our community needs to know about those programs so we can get a few more young men under our wings. And so please understand that we need to help. And this is a good platform to springboard that. I'm glad that Dr. Rice invited me to this. And as we get ready. Oh, just to put it out there, the brothers of East St. Louis, Kappa Alpha Psi, has already donated 30 cases of canned vegetables for this year's, I see you, Tyler.
I know, I see him up there too. He trying to.
And now, are you East St. Louis alum?
No, I'm St. Louis alumni.
Okay, so y'all gonna match the East St. Louis 30 cases?
Let me talk about that. Can we talk about it? It's
I'm
possible.
just asking.
It's possible.
If you let the East St. Louis Kappas outdo y'all, that's okay with me. We only require 10 cases.
Okay.
We only require, seriously, we only require for our effort 10 cases of canned vegetables for your team. But all the fraternities are welcome, Iota Phi Theta. And what we're doing is we give the canned goods the collection of donations go to the choice of the champions. Whoever wins the tournament determines who gets the collection of canned vegetables. And we also give foot lockers to young men going away to college.
Yeah.
So not right now, I'm up to 14 young men going away to college. They're going to Alabama. That's my son. I got a young man going to Texas A&M. I got a young man going to Rhodes. I got a young man going to San Diego State, and so on. And we give them words of wisdom from each one of the Divine Nine and the Prince Hall family. We give them about 2 minutes to talk. Sometimes we get the Baptist preacher that kind of gets winded, but we do encourage our young men to go on and finish. The one thing I want to stress is, I tell these young men that you don't have to join any of our fraternities in order to receive this Foot Locker, because we have enough brothers, but our community does not have enough educated men.
That's it.
And that's where they come in. It's up to them to finish their college endeavors. So please, and I recite, see it through. They got to finish their college degree.
That's it, man. And that's what it's about, man. We have a lot of young men that start college and they begin the process, but somewhere along the line they get discouraged, things happen or what have you. And we have to support them to the completion of it. We want to see them walk across the stage. And we not only want to see them walk across the stage, but we also want to see them walk across the stage with a plan to implement, to use that degree as a tool, because the degree itself, don't get the job. You got to know how to use that degree as a tool. You have to have a plan. You have to have some mentoring and some wise advisors that can help them, and then a network to help them open up doors to get to that next level. And that's critical. I'm gonna be honest, transparent. Brother Evans, he was one, he called me and we talked for a while about two weeks ago about this issue. And I told him, I said, man, hey, if you work with me, just get some brothers together, we'll make this the next podcast. And so through the efforts and the supports of the community, reaching out, every brother and those listening there, every brother that we reached out to, this is the response. And we have, man, back in each of these brothers is hundreds and hundreds of other brothers that's concerned about what's going on with our young Black men, trying to get them into spaces. This whole school to prison pipeline, we can shut that down, right? Each one teach one, each one reach one, we'll shut that down. They have to close prisons if each of us stepped up and we were to do what we were supposed to do as men. So that's critical.
Dr. Rice,
Mm-hmm.
if I may, and let's just call this a seed. Let's make this, if y'all with me, say it, this the pipeline to prosperity. We don't have to have a pipeline to prison. We can redirect the current. This is a pipeline to prosperity. And to piggyback on what you said about finishing, I once had one of the people speaking to the young men at one of the tournaments one year. It was 2014, 2015. He was a retention officer for one of the schools. And he said, less than 1% of our young men that start finish. So we really do need to, as you stated, make sure that they finish with a plan.
That's it, and I'm gonna add to your pipeline of prosperity. I'm gonna say this is the pipeline of purpose, because purpose, when a person knows their purpose, that makes room for them. The word says your gift makes room for you, right? And so that's critical, man. It's important that we know that. And so, man, hey, once again, man, we happy to have you. I got my brothers blue and white, and so I don't know, y'all, I just keep coming out, man. It's just every time, so, I got both of them are great men. I don't know which one to choose. So, so I'm going to invite, I'm going to do it like this. Both of them are pastors too, believe it or not. I just said it and thought about that and impacting the community. So let's see, Pastor Greg Wilson, just have you start, man. I think you're muted. There you go.
Good morning, brothers. I'm Gregory Wilson. I am the Sigma Beta coordinator for the St. Louis Sigmas right here in wonderful St. Louis. I too am a former educator. I'm a K-12 certified counselor with a lifetime certification, former principal in a high school, and I transitioned. Now I'm the district administrator for probation and parole for North County. So I handle all of the North County area. I got into what I'm doing right now because I seen the need in the high school, and I seen them leaving from high school going in. And some of them, I mean, granted, we do what we can do to try to prevent these things. However, when they do get into trouble, somebody has to be there to get them back on the right path. Somebody's got to show them that there is a way out of it once they've made a mistake.
That's it, man. And that's very critical that we understand that we have young men, and in our mentoring program, we have some that we want them to, be successful. We realize that we're going to make mistakes. We've all made mistakes, and those mistakes don't have to be lifetime prison sentences. They make a mistake. We have some brothers there that'll help walk them through that situation and get them back on the right track. And so working on both ends of this is critical for us. So we're happy for Brother Wilson for joining us. Brother Hemingway, what's going on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Doing great. How you doing, Doc?
Man, I can't complain, brother. I'm happy to have you here with us today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Glad to be here, man, with the 12 unique men on the call, and then all in the virtual space, looking at it currently, and as well as ones coming back to look at what we're doing here, man. It's a beautiful thing.
So tell us a little bit about you, brother.
Real short and sweet, man. Larry Hemingway Sr., proud member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated here in Springfield, Illinois. Married, have a total of 7 children, 3 grandchildren. And what I like to put out there, man, especially in the space of mentoring, my grandchildren call me Yag Paul, right? Yag Paul, and you heard it here from me. That's short for young grandpa. Hey, we probably need to Google that thing and put it into definition. But I'm Yag Paul with my 3 beautiful grandchildren. I work full-time for the Springfield Urban League, which is one of 100 affiliates across the country. Springfield Urban League, I believe we're at the probably the 4th largest Urban League affiliate in the country. Senior program manager, where I've worked both our education and youth programs, as well as the workforce development area. So done the thing in the area of after school programs with our school age youth piece. But now I'm the senior program manager for our workforce, while helping ones, both young and old, develop those job readiness skills. And so some things I love to do, man. I love to listen to instrumental jazz music and just relax during those quiet times. As those of us as men, we definitely have to have that time to replenish ourselves. But for this area, in the area of youth, I do it from the area of servant leadership. That's my livelihood. That's who I am as an associate pastor. Servant leadership is where I'm at. And so our Sigma Beta Club is a phenomenal opportunity. In fact, the Honorable Dr. Paulette Moore started the Sigma Beta Clubs back in the 1950s, and we are the first Greek organization to develop a youth auxiliary within the Divine Nine. And so I'm super excited, man. Here under the auspice of our leader from the National Sigma Beta Club Foundation, Dr. Thomas, and then our international president, Dr. At least Janabu Williams from the international headquarters. So I am a board member for the National Sigma Beta Club Foundation, and man, just really glad to be in this space, man, with like-minded men.
Good deal, man. And man, you just really just kind of started us into the vein and to go into some conversation about the organization. So I appreciate that history and background. I'm going to ask the brothers to share with me, if you could. I know some of the brothers, you talked about yourself, but share with us the history, of the founding of your organization, and then also the mission. So if you could share and let the people know what's what with that. Go ahead.
I had a question. Didn't you mention that there was an iota in here?
There is. There is Brother Anthony Bird.
Did we hear from their mentoring program?
Their mentoring program is not represented here today. Brother Bird has his own mentoring program that he's going to be talking about. But
I will just share this real quick. Is back in the day, me and my boys came up with this program called the Difference Makers in East St. Louis. My dad actually did the artwork. He's an artist. And it was based on kind of a play on A Talented Tim, where our goal was to reach back down and pull up people under us. And when I say that, it's because we feel like we're like in a higher position to pull down, not looking down on them, but it's pulling them up for wherever they are. So that's why the hands are the way it is, Difference Maker. So that was our goal. And that was in 2000s.
All right. Okay. I didn't want to leave Iota Phi Theta out.
Yes, sir. I reached out to their regional director, and he told me at this time, right now, they're doing some restructuring. And so he didn't feel like they were ready to join in this conversation. But we did consider an Iota, and then we also reached out to our brothers in Prince Hall Masonry to see if they want to be a part of the conversation today too. And I'm sure we'll have conversations in the future, and I'm sure they'll be ready to join in at the table. So at this time, brothers, I'm gonna ask you to share a little bit about your history of the founding. I know that Brother Hemingway gave a little bit of history on the Sigma Betas, but I'm gonna ask the brothers from other organizations if you could share about the history, and then talk about the purpose or mission of your organization for those who are listening in. Let's start with the Kappas.
Oh, thank you, brother.
Okay.
The Guidewright National Program was actually started right here in St. Louis
All right.
in 1922. So from we extended from that, Guidewright is more of a national standpoint where you do activities. So an extension from that is Kappa League, where we actually do the mentoring. Mentoring is based on achievement and every field human endeavor. We want to get them to the next level, get them prepared. We also want to get them with resume writing. We get them together with etiquette classes. We take them out to fine dining. We also have Black history programs. We college tours, which is most important. So we do a college tour in the springtime, 4 or 5 different colleges, and we stay overnight to get them prepared, say what I'm going to do next, to have a plan. We also have a finance class. So we do a lot of things to help them prepare for our juniors and seniors. I have sat on the juniors and seniors for the last couple of years, but I have worked with every young man from the 6th to the 12th grade. But just to get them based on community service, get them exposed to giving back. That's what we stand on.
That's it, man. You know, and those are some critical components when we work with our young men. Let's get our brothers from Alpha Phi Alpha. Talk to us a little bit about your programs, man.
Okay. Well, I'll start off. And I just kind of give a little background on how things came to fruition. So in the earlier part of this millennium, more so the early 2000s, what used to happen is big brother and big sister partner with the Epsilon Lambda chapter. And what they would do is they would host events at the Alpha House, right? But it'll be in a group setting. And why it'll be in a group setting? Because there wasn't a large enough number of Black male mentors to fulfill the one-on-one relationships. But you know what, though? It actually became effective. So what happened is in the year 2011, I gotta give praise to this brother because he's the one who planted that seed. Brother Brian Hurd told the chapter, we need to provide more opportunities for the youth within the organization as well. So due to the group mentoring become more of a consistent action, that's when he came up with the initials AMP, which stands for Alpha Mentoring Program. So one of our national programs, Go to High School, Go to College, was one that the youth were involved in. But there's also something that the AKA is doing in the Omicron 8 Omega chapter, the Little Miss Fashionetta program. So what happened is our young men from actually elementary age to middle school age would be the escorts in their program. So guess what? They're learning already at the young age how to communicate with the young ladies, as well as etiquette training and things like that. And then on top of that, helping them to experience what it's like to wear formal attire, right?
Yeah.
And so what we want to do was track them throughout. Like Brother Morrison was saying earlier, one of the young men is 23 years old. So our goal is, of course, to maintain a dedicated cohort, and we keep tracking the outcomes of those individuals. And oftentimes those individuals do come back. So we do things like we do like different educational ventures, I like to call it. Like we went to the Mississippi River Trail Association, learned about science and nature and different species. We've done nature walks. We've done STEM programs, learned about financial literacy, health, gardening. It's quite a few things. So what we always want to do is expand our minds to learn different aspects, whether it's blue collar or white collar, whatever. Just make sure, hey, this may be your lane. You may not have thought this was your lane, but guess what? This is something that you can get exposed to, and they may plant a seed that takes them to a level that we may have never known.
That's it, man. That's it. Brother Morrison, you want to add to it?
Absolutely. So what happens is we provide as many real life experiences as possible to these young men because, we don't believe that you can just fill out an application and just assign a young man to a grown man because Black people are dynamic. I mean, look at the gifts and talents of these children, man, and how versatile, this technology advancement is just one example of the gifts and talents that they have. But the problem is that in the Black community, if you're not singing into a microphone or carrying a ball, those are the only gifts that are perpetuated. And so we have so many children that are not interested in sports, that don't believe that they have a purpose in this world. And what we do is, one, we provide them access to wisdom, because that's what we think that this generation is missing. And then two, we group mentors so that they can choose who it is that they want to learn from. And through this group mentoring, man, I mean, iron sharpens iron. And so no respecter of age, man, you can see these young men mature, self-taught. The way they serve and support and educate one another and guide and support each other. All we really do is we're really just the umbrella of covering. And so parents love us, because they go all day long and they get a whole day off. And I mean, they come back exhausted and educated. So I can keep going because I love it, but just the support.
Man, I'm telling you, it just a couple of things that you all said that really stood out was, number one was it tracking. That's critical, right? And so we have to be able to track our young men right throughout their life, because we know those of us who've taken the lifespan development, and each stage of life presents a different set of challenges, right? Starting from as young as when they're in elementary school, even sometime in preschool, right? And so tracking them through each of those stages of development, and then making sure that we stay connected. In order to track somebody, you got to stay connected with them, right? You got to have a monitor on them. You have to have some contact with them, things like that. And so that's really critical, because as you track them, you start to know them. You get to know their history. You need to get to know intimate things about them that you can share, that builds that kind of relationship, right? And then the second thing, man, that I heard was when we talked about gifts, and said that gifts are perpetuated. And sometimes we in our communities, we are seeing just those basic things, right? And I'm not minimizing sports or anything else like that, or talents, but this mind, man, this is the thing that we all been given a gift. We have been beautiful minds, right? And being able to cultivate that mind is critical, man. So we're gonna talk more about a couple of these themes that was brought up, that Black people are dynamic. Yeah, that's gonna post. We gonna see that, because we have to talk about, man. We have to remove that narrative. I'm getting excited. I'm getting ahead of myself, man. Brother Evans, we talked a little bit about the history, man, about the history of Omega Psi Phi and those brothers with the Squires, right? Is that the name of it, organization? I think you're muted. You all can unmute yourself, man. This is an open conversation, so.
All right, the Omega Squires, that's the St. Louis side of it.
Okay.
Up there on 3900 Goodfellow, that's ran by the Upsilon Omega chapter of Omega Psi Phi. I happen to belong to the New Chi chapter of Omega Psi Phi, East St. Louis. And so I do have the details on that, but I would like to do a shameless plug on when you talk about tracking. Remember I said during for the softball tournament, I give foot lockers to young men going away to college. So, we give foot lockers, because I can't afford. We have given away over 125 foot lockers to young men. I happen to know that one is a lieutenant in the Army. One is just graduated, and he's doing a residency at St. Louis College of Pharmacy.
Yeah.
I have an engineer, because I do track these young men in the ranks. I got one that just got accepted to, we have one, it's not mine, these are our children. This is our community. So we have a young man that just got accepted into a doctoral program. He went away to Ashland College. So I do keep up with these people. A lot of people have told me, hey, my son's graduating, thank you for your Foot Locker program. So that's our program, because I sure can't afford to do what I've done with that. Now, back to my purple hat. Our Project Manhood program started in 1994 with the encouragement of charter member Frederick Burke. And so what we do, like I heard people say, we talk about financial literacy. We also talk about etiquette and things of that nature. We mentor young men in the program. And so some of our activities is one, that's dear to me is a mentee chess tournament. And I hope to have all of your mentees in the chess tournament when COVID is over and they can start, because chess forces you to think about your next move. And that's something that we have to get in the habit of doing. I want to parenthetically pause there. I found out a lot of us don't play chess. And I said, maybe we should start, because a lot of us are shooting at each other. So if we could change energies, maybe we can, as I stated, think about that next move, because chess forces you to do that. We do have a Black college tour. We take our kids to Cardinals games, Six Flags, and things of that nature. Goal setting is one of our presentations. And if I do have our presentations, if you would like to allow me to do a screen share in the future.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
we'll do that. Okay.
I'm sorry?
I think Brother T. Patrick had a question.
Go ahead.
Good morning, fellas. Hey, so I noticed there's a lot of discussion about college, right? I mean, I think that is a very, very important aspect. You know, I think education is forefront, you know, of generally anything that we do. My question surrounds this. I have 5 brothers, and only 2 of us are college graduates. Now, most of us have been to college, but I've had, you know, 2 brothers that, you know, got to college and realized that's just not what they want to do. So, and they're both, you know, successful. One runs a barber college, or he has his own barber shop, and the other, you know, is a truck driver. So, in your various programs, you know, because I represent the workforce, I'm a human resource. St. Rice likes to call me a guru, but I'm in human resources and have been. I've worked in a lot of cities, difficult environments. And one of the things that I found is that as the generations come in, sometimes I have 4 different generations in a business unit. And what I found is the younger generations are not as prepared for work. They don't have the work ethic. So there's a gap there. And so I say this to say, as we're preparing young men for college, you know, because, you know, most of you guys are educators. On the flip side, for those that are in your programs that maybe don't aspire to college or not, or you know, they're just not interested. What types of things are we doing to encourage them and prepare them for the workforce? Because, you know, quite frankly, I think there's going to be a lot of focus on trades very soon, you know, versus the formal, you know, education that, you know, we're accustomed to. And that's for anybody. So whoever wants to jump out there.
Well, at the Alpha Mentoring Program, we don't say, hey, you guys go do that. We say, hey, let's go do that. So we lead by example. And so in these real life experiences, we create a wide range of opportunities for them to, one, you know, volunteer and work and grow in many ways, so that the main thing is that we are redefining the identity of a Black man in every child that we engage. And from therefore, they see our work ethic and everything else by activity.
Okay. One thing that I do is I try to make sure that people have plans, because as you stated, not everybody's going to go to a traditional 4-year university. And I'm an example of that. I'm gonna come clean. I wasted my time and a lot of my mama's money when I went to Forest Park the first time.
Okay.
And I wanted to go in the military, and I did. I went in the United States Air Force. And then I went on and completed my formal education. But what I'm getting at is, as you stated, not everybody's going to go to formal school. So if you have a plan, like we had already said, if you want to drive a truck, be a plumber. We tend to support that type of energy. as I stated, you don't have to join our fraternities, but you have to have a plan and finish something. Because granted, when I think Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu said, it'll cost you $100 if an electrician rings your doorbell. So, so that's a noble trade.
That's it.
And while it's not formal education, so we need to push that. But as you stated, be the best electrician out there so that you will continuously ring doorbells and collect the hundreds, you know, and that's what we need to do as far as your work ethic answer. We say, hey, be the best electrician, plumber, professor, whatever it is you're doing, be the best at it so that you will be called back again and again.
Let me jump in there for I guess 1 minute and tie some added value to what we're having in the discussion. It's two things. We as men always want to push that area, but some of the youth do not want to go in that area. And I can remember some of the youth through Sigma Betas went through the program, graduated, and went into the military. One of the things we share all the time is the main thing is to keep the main thing, and that's the main thing. I'll share it one more time for those that didn't push pause and rewind. The main thing is to keep the main thing, the main thing. We want these young individuals to be progressive in life once they graduate at age 18 or what have you. And it really ties back into those of us that are here. I believe Brother Morrison said exposure. As men, we give them that exposure to different areas of life, whether it's college tours, whether it's military. And all of us have men that are part of our organizations that are part of the workforce development, or some are attorneys, or some are in the doctor's field. So we give them that exposure through, fairs, through mentoring, through other areas to keep them focused on what their future may look like. So that premature exposure in every area, I think, really makes a difference.
Let me jump in right behind you, brother. Is when we start looking at the Sigma Beta Club, how we're founding, how we're trying to shape our young men that we're mentoring, we look at a gateway of future leaders strengthening our communities. When we say future leaders does not necessarily mean that you have a 4-year degree or you have a doctorate. We're looking at leaders from all levels. One of the things is that I try to instill with them is the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are you involved in the things like this? Because I heard from a lecture one day, if you lose your why, you lose your way. Because if you don't have that why you're doing what you're doing, you're just wandering aimlessly around. Whether it be those of us that are in the trades. When I was a high school principal, I was a principal at the Construction Career Center. And so we had all different levels. You can look at those going straight into the construction field or going into the trades, or those going to a 2 or 4 year college to get into engineering or some of those other things. But we have to, as you said, we have to give them the exposure. And so when we talking about our young men, we're saying our future leaders, we have to understand that we have to take that stigma of leadership equating to education or college degrees. A leader is at the essence of what we should be doing, is how we carry ourselves each and every day.
That's it. Man, you all sharing. Go ahead, Brother Morrison. Go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to chime in and just talk about getting back to the basics, because you mentioned, brother, what our children need. And so with the Black man missing out of the home in so many lives, what's also missing are those basic skills that we had to learn, like cutting grass, raking leaves, shoveling snow, digging ditches, cleaning out garages. And so that volunteering can be very rooted in community. Like, they don't have to get paid to cut this grass. There's a woman in the community who's an elder who needs youth support. And so we started out teaching the boys how to cut grass. And then they started realizing that they can earn some money doing this. So we taught them how to do it. Then we said, hey, if you come up with half the money, we'll match you. And then they're about their own lawnmower. Next thing you know, they cutting grass up and down the block every summer, and they're busy. They're out the streets, and they're reinvesting into their own futures. And so that entrepreneurship on a minute level at 12 and 13 years old just explodes, and because the possibilities are endless. So when you talk about building work ethic, man, we got to start back at the ground. You know, do they still have to cut grass? Like my mama was like, get off that game.
I know that's right.
Trim them hedges. You know what I mean? Like, right. But it's what built me, you know. That's it. And so, you know, they live in apartments, they don't have a yard. But that doesn't mean that we as Black men in the community, look, come cut my grass then.
I wish my mom would have hired somebody to cut grass.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it with you. When was the last time you seen a young man knock on your door and ask to shovel your stove? When was the last time that you had a young man knock on your door and say, can I cut your grass? That's a couple of generations ago, right?
I was waiting for that this snow round.
I used to do it.
I'm telling you. So we gotta, you know, our role is to fill in those gaps as mentors. So it just came up with some of the other brothers speaking, man. So
I love that point. I remember huffing and puffing when I had to cut grass. But I'm so thankful now that I had to get out there and do it, because, you know, I think about some of the things that I had to do, change tires, just different things like that, you know, I've had a couple of flat tires. Well, I'm thankful now that I know how to do that, or I was forced to. So I would be like, but you know what I mean? It's good. Yeah, I wholeheartedly am in line with that.
Critical.
I got a question for you guys. All right, when we had our mentor program in the 2000s, Darius Miles went from East St. Louis to the pros. Nelly was hot, Chingy was hot. So we're talking to kids at schools, like you guys mentioned, they want to be a rapper or a ball player. That was it. What challenges do y'all see now with the new Instagram crew that want to be influencers? They don't see the hard work, they just see what's posted. So what challenges have you guys encountered mentoring your youth?
I'll jump out there real quick. Glad you asked for that. One of the challenges that I would say is that young men's face is an identity crisis, right? See this as really being huge in our genealogical aspect for men to understand who they are as future kings, right? And so to pull them away from some of the things that would detour them, I think we really need to focus in on that. You know, a part of what we're all is doing is helping them volunteer so they can really know who they are on the inside. But I think the identity crisis is really a huge piece that I'll throw out there.
For us, let me jump in there. For us, it would probably be more of racial tension. Racial tension and peer pressure. And coming from, I work with these young men, some of them don't have a 2-parent home and they think it's their fault. And so therefore they limit themselves. So we try to get them in the mindset like, that's not your story. Your story is something else. You have the ability to become something else more than what your situation is. So it's a family breakdown and we have to find ways to unpack that.
Man, that's powerful.
I would like to say one of the things, Brother Burt, I see as a challenge is the fact that there is definitely, just as we were talking about cutting grass and shoveling snow, a generational huge gap in that my 11-year-old experience and the 11-year-old today is way different. And so I have to make sure that I try to bridge that gap. So a lot of times I would have to ask my son, how can you say, or can you talk to him because he's 18? He's closer to their 11-year-old. And I think that's something that we as, I don't know, let's just say 45 to 55, we're thinking about when we were 11, and if we saw a lady trying to cross the street, we're gonna run and try to help her make sure she make it. hold traffic, or if she's carrying bags, say, let me hold one of those bags for you, ma'am, and walk across the street. Now, it's not like that. And so that there's that. And also, when we were 11, we didn't have mass shootings to think about. Our biggest concern with law enforcement was kind of being railroaded to juvie or being hit by law enforcement if it happened. Now they're worried about actually living, you know? So our concerns are different, and we need to try to bridge that gap. Don't know how we can do it, but that is a reality, that there's a huge chasm between me being 11 and today's 11-year-old, which I think is about the average age of all of our programs. Project Manhood, it goes from 8 to 18. So that's 11, 12 years old. We're trying to influence and keep on the straight and narrow, and we don't know what they do for the 31 days that they're not around us, or the 30 days that they're not around us. We only have them for like, what, 6 hours in a month. And we may follow up here and there, but realistically speaking, we have to bridge that gap. I didn't mean to get winded, but
no, it's good. It's very ironic. Me and my son, he's 10. We're talking about that the other day. And I said back in the day when we got into a fight, you told your boy if he get the best of me, jump in, break it up, or whatever. Now it's 3-4 guys jumping on one person just cause, and people shooting. Right. And we all know back in the day, you got into a fight, it was usually 1-on-1, maybe 2-on-2, and that was it. They broke it up, and that's it. Nowadays, it's different ball game.
And you know what's interesting, like what you said, man, as far as the fights and kind of tying it into the social media aspect that you mentioned earlier, is these are things that we talked about. It was legend. Now, unfortunately, I'll just use the term for the sake of chasing clout, sometimes these situations are recorded on social media. And I always say this, I'm like, okay, a lot of us, you know, attention is currency. So I'm like, okay, if attention is currency to you, and if it's that important, because you see whoever else you see getting attention, realize the other side of that. Do you want to deal with not just getting what you think may be accolades, but are you ready to deal with that criticism that may come from people that you don't know, or that you've never seen, or that don't really know you? And so if you can deal with that, that's one thing. But if you can't, that may be something you want to consider, you know? So that's something that we really got to be mindful of. And I tell the youth all the time, I'm like, look, be careful what you put out there, you know, because it may come back to bite you in a way that you may not like, you know. And I thought about something
Willis,
else.
You joined something in me. I'm sorry. I need to say this.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I need to say that with NGA and Square and PayPal being headquartered in St. Louis, as you stated, if it's out there, especially in social media, your fight, your posts, your pics that are inappropriate, when your security clearance comes up, so you can get one of those positions, if it flag, you cannot erase it.
Digital
and please understand, I'm in a compliance analyst on Scott Air Force Base. I just finished a 55-page application about my clearance. So here's the deal. If they go back and they ask you, hey, have you ever been in a fight? If you say no, and then they pull you up on doggone social media, and to bring it home, remember the young man at Cardinal Ritter that got hemmed up for playing a game he shouldn't have because they identified his tattoos? And then they ruined his whole senior career, his senior season, just on that. So please be mindful of your actions, because 10 years, 5 years down the line, you may want to work at NGA. Trust me, the pay is worth it.
Yeah. Hey, I want to jump in.
Pierce just last week. I mean, I'm just saying. One week he's on IG, next week ESPN say we done with you. I'm like, man, it was a quick turnaround.
Yeah, exactly. So you really got to look at that. I'm sorry, y'all go ahead.
I wanted to jump in and talk about, you know, the identity crisis and in conjunction with this technology. These children are just so overexposed to information. Like, imagine growing up in this generation and having internet on your phone, like in your pocket back in the 90s. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, the whole World Wide Web is in your pocket, which means really you have access to unlimited information. But what comes up first? And then even more, what comes up, what matches your face, right? Looking in the mirror, you should see your father, you should see your mother, you should see your lineage, right? But instead, you see world star. Right. And so if we already know that our children are underexposed to realities and the possibilities of that, and they're overexposed in the technology, and which I call it fantasy land, right? It's not real. You know, the bodies aren't real. The faces are, you know, they got that fake makeup, you know, adjustments, so you can't see the pimples. And so everybody thinks that they have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're not perfect, what value do you have if you're not shaped a certain way? And you don't, you know, and we got to go back to making sure that these children know that to be, you know, I don't know, my favorite group, Outkast, and, you know, that first album, they said, what does it mean to be an outcast? This is means to be different or not accepted into normal society. And matter of fact, at the end, what did he say? Matter of fact, I love being an outcast, don't you? You know, and they gotta embrace that uniqueness, man, and to be different. You know, because these kids nowadays, they all want to look the same. They got the same shoes. Remember when they went through that generation of white tees and everybody looked the exact same? That's not cool. You know, be you, be different. You know, so you know, we got to get them back to that. You know,
I'm gonna throw out a question because we got folks chiming in, man. You know, on in the various formats. So one of the questions, Brother Morrison, you started it, so I'm gonna throw it out to everybody. The question was, how do you unpack the identity issue? So they're asking, how do we unpack that identity issue we're working with our young men? Some strategies. That's open question.
So good thing, and I'm glad Brother Bird asked that question. I will say one thing on that is really what we are doing with just the mirror and matching with the bros that are the conduits with these young men. For example, me being in social service. So the group that I mentored, the 15 to 20, in our Sigma Beta Club, they can watch how I do as a living epistle, right? There's the preacher side of me. As a living epistle, they can see me in my day-to-day. They can see my social media. They can see how I interact with my children, my wife. And so they can see that. Now, not taken away from the Nellies and all of that other, that's where we can introduce them to our inner circles, but then have that premature exposure in other areas. Because here's the thing, it's not the what's going on social media, who they can reach out and touch and to pause and say, you know what, I'm here because I love you, right? That takes away everything. I love you. I'm here taking time out because I love you. I want to see you be successful in life. I think that's one thing that we need to build even in that.
Yeah, I want to say real quick, I want to give a shout out to all those who are joining in. Brother Dean Rael, man, you sharing some really good thoughts with us, man, and we appreciate that. And so as we continue to have this conversation, I'm gonna throw a caveat in this. So when I started off in higher education, I started at PWI, which is a primary white institution, but then I went to another college, which was a PBI, which serves primarily Black students, right, in the college level. And many of them are from the Chicago area or the surrounding area. And so I'm excited. I'm thinking walking on the campus, we got like 70% African-American students, and that's like a rarity. That's not an HBCU. It's actually it's a private college. It's not an HBCU. I'm walking past some of the young men, and as I get close to them, they look away, they look down, right? And so now I remember being in college, I was excited to see, a Black face who was a faculty member or a staff or something like that wasn't a coach, right? And so I began to ask myself, what's going on? And so my higher power is Christ, and I pray. And so he said, these young men and young women had not felt the healthy touch of a Black man. And that bothered me, right? That bothered me because the fear that they had with dealing with us many times. And as I started, because I teach, my background is criminal justice, of course. And so I teach criminal justice course. I'm an associate professor for criminal justice. And when we start to hear this generation's conversation, it aligns to go a little bit deeper with this conversation. What are some of the strategies we can use to help our young people and our parents or other organizations that may be listening in right now to help build this bridge, this connection, right?
And that's an important aspect of the question. Before we get the answers, I wanted to jump in because from the employer standpoint, driving cultural change, let's say here in North County, I have literally had to go in and reshape the thought process of leadership and how to interact with young Black men. It's a battle. And I'm talking not just, our white friends, but also Black leaders and how we have to consider the socioeconomic impact of what's happening in the environment around and how our employees process certain things. And had tremendous success. We literally worked for a company. We launched a station, and we were one of the most difficult stations in the country. And this is a large organization, right? So we're impacting all of St. Louis and struggling, and we couldn't understand that. And I think it ties into the identity, because that's what I had to start talking about and say, if we're going to change this culture, we've got to consider the fact that I have associates that don't think that using the N-word in everyday speech with their supervisor is an issue. These things are huge. And I just kind of wanted to add on to that as we think about and talk about what strategies we can use, because this is a big thing. I've had to save jobs, and then there's conversations where I had to tell the associate, look, there's nothing I can do for you. I understand where you're coming from, but there's nothing I can do because you've taken it a bridge too far. If you'd have come to me, I could have helped. And before I let me wrap this up. I had two associates. They were male and female. They got into it. They were both. If they'd have gotten into a fight, I don't know which one would have won. I could just put it that way, right? They were both that way. But when I had driven that message so much that when they got into a conflict, and I mean, it's a heated exchange, the man came and got me out of my office and say, look, I'm having a problem. I need you to help me. And when he described who it was, I knew exactly what a female associate it was. We got him. I brought him into the office. We had a conversation. They both, as difficult as they were, talked through the situation and was able to resolve it without any incident. Both jobs were able to be saved. And so I wanted to piggyback kind of on what Dr. Rice said from the employer standpoint before we get off into the actual strategy.
I recently heard the phrase, it's hard to read the label when you're inside the jar. And so what I'm getting at when I say that, and when I think about is you're in a toxic environment, extreme poverty, and probably extreme anger from the baggage of your upbringing. From what Dr. Rice said, you had an abusive parent, in your opinion. Sometimes it might have been good parenting, but everybody else don't have it. Like making you cut the grass or shovel the snow. But you all right, bro? Okay. But what I'm saying is, it's hard to see the label. So you're so angry and you go to work and somebody says something to you wrong or look at you a little sideways and they're really thinking about something else. They don't even see you. And there you are, Mr. Patrick, with that kind of situation. What you looking at? It's like, I didn't even realize you were there, but you have so much pent up frustration until things are inappropriately said. Now, to answer the question of how do we turn some of that around, I remember as a child, I had one teacher that didn't care whether or not we could read or write or add, but she was way more concerned about, we had these pictures on the wall. We had to be able to identify Booker T. Washington on site. We had to be able to identify Jack Johnson on site. And in hindsight, I realized she was forcing us to focus on great African Americans, people who look like us that accomplish great things. So it's not foreign to me to see somebody African American doing something great.
That's good.
Evan,
Man, that's a great point, because I was lucky enough to
I think Brother Willis was.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think he was talking.
No, you just, brother Evan, you just planted the seed that made me think of an experience that I had when I first started teaching in education. Now, when I very first started, I'm just talking about this brief experience real quick. I worked in the alternative schools, right? So I worked in the district, a Title I district, and I had the students that even the district themselves say, hey, we don't want these kids. After this, we could do whatever. This is their last stop, right? So I remember introducing myself to all the students. And I remember one particular young man kind of stood out. I'm like, okay, had what some may consider the tough guy, hard image or whatever. So anyway, I kid you not, a couple of days later, I'm watching the news and they're talking about two young men have been arrested on a drug deal gone bad. And I see him, one of the ones walking out in handcuffs. And so that just had me distraught. I'm like, man. And then the director of the center said, you know what, Mr. Willis, you're going to have to be the one to send their work to them. So I said, you know what, I don't want to just send them anything. I want to send them something that means something, just so they could learn something to make, because now they have nothing but time to think. So I sent them things, asked them questions, high-level DOK questions about the history of the Black Panthers, the history of Black Wall Street, Paul Robeson and Malcolm X and things of that nature. And when I seen his responses, I'm like, man, this is a brilliant young brother, just know that he was forced to dig those things, right? And so a couple years later, I seen him, he matured. He said, hey, Mr. Will, how you doing? I'm going to trade school now. He was out of the streets. He was doing productive things in life. He even referenced some of the stuff that I sent him while he was locked down. So I say that to say there are multiple ways to reach them. But the thing is, like you said, give them that point of reference of Black greatness, because if all they see is a limited scope of things that are their current negative circumstance, because a lot of times we're victims of circumstance, we don't know about the greatness that existed before us or pay attention to that and realize that, hey, this is what came before me. I'm tied into this by lineage. I can do this now, and perhaps I could be an example for somebody in the future to show, hey, just because this is where I'm at now doesn't mean it has to be that way forever. And maybe somebody down the line could look at my example and say, hey, you know what, I'm here now, but that's not the end of the world. So sometimes when we do certain things, we don't realize how much we're paying it forward, even when we're not here, just by simply engaging. And then my only purpose was to expose that young brother and get him to think. But just to get an example was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, real quick, I'm gonna jump in. And for those who are joining us, we have the brothers of the Divine Nine that are represented. We have brothers from Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, our brothers from Beta Psi Phi, brothers from Kappa Alpha Psi, and brothers from Phi Beta Sigma and Phi Theta. What our conversation is today, because we got a lot of conversation that's going on the chat side of things, and our conversation is looking at the impact of Black male mentoring. And so each of us have an organization, or we're part of organizations that have mentoring programs. And so that's why we're engaging in this conversation today. We had Brother David Green, who said, oftentimes, instead of humbling ourselves to the youth and getting their input, we are dictating to them our philosophical ideas, right? Brother Dean Rael said the youth don't look up to good men, right? It's but they are watching and educating themselves with the wrong things. So when we're looking at the youth, and then Ms. Stephanie Moore said, I think our young people are too busy trying to figure out how to survive, that their judgments are clouded, right? And then we had one more statement that I thought was very impactful. Give me 1 second. Someone stated, say, this is why we have these organizations for brothers to show up. And so they were commending the brothers for being a part and the work that you're doing in the community. So and then someone say, I believe it's more focusing on directing than dictating with this generation. So instead of trying to dictate to them, we need to work on do a better job of directing this generation. So let's build on that. What do you think, brothers?
Man,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
First of all, I want to say that one, the best thing that we could do to change the identity of the youth is to be consistent in their lives. They do not have that. They don't have the exposure of a Black man, Black male energy, Black male strength. And in the education system, you can tell by how they react to their first Black male teacher, if they have one. Second of all, what we also have to do is we have to stop convicting our youth for what they don't know, because the truth is you know how in the justice system, when a Black man is murdered, what do to get the police officer off? They victimize that dead man, right?
Yes.
We do the same thing to our children. How do we hold them accountable like they're listening to the wrong things? Who is governing? Who's the adult and who's the child here, right?
Man.
And so I want to push back on a couple of those comments, because how do you know? Like my father, he came to me and he started talking, and I said, well, who are the Buffalo Soldiers? I was a little kid, and he said, you don't know the Buffalo Soldiers? And I lived in a predominantly white district. I was the only Black child in the whole grade level. And so I said, who's gonna teach me? And he got silent. And then the next morning I woke up with 3 books on my bed with an assignment. So, you know, but like we have to take responsibility and accountability for the child who lives next door or across the street and engage them on every level, because we cannot hold them accountable for our inabilities as adults and our shortcomings.
Oh, man, that's powerful.
I agree, Brother Morrison. That was heavy. And I also believe that we have to listen to them. Stop badging them, listening. Also, for me, what I try to do is create a safe space. This is your safe space. We can talk about anything. I won't inform your parents unless it's dealing with you in trouble or you're about to harm yourself. Create that safe space. I also have one-on-ones with these young brothers. I have one-on-one just going, what's going on with the grades? What's going on with your personal life? You got a little girlfriend. What are you guys doing? Are you thinking about being intimate? Well, let me tell you about some things about that. What are you doing? Stay engaged, being consistent in their life. So I like those one-on-ones and bringing in a panel from the St. Louis Police Department and the chief officer, you know, bringing in politicians saying college is not for everybody. It's not. However, you could do something else and be just as great, but staying connected.
That's it.
If I can jump in just for a second, there's a couple things that I see that happens and that I've used in mentoring young men over the years. One of the things is, you know, from a book that I've read once before, we got to get away from that driftwood mentality. Because if you pick up a piece of driftwood, it's a beautiful thing when you see it from one side, but if you flip it over, it's raggedy, it's ugly. And if we don't expose ourselves to our young men and let them know it's okay that you have this side, it's okay to go through this and be able to identify what we need to do to help them get to the next level. And in identifying those things, I call it the 3 C's. We got to identify the cause, the commitment, and the consequences. What caused this to happen? Why did this happen? I'm sorry, that's the preacher side of me coming out. But what caused this to happen? Why are we in the situation where we're in? What did we do when we committed this action? And what are the consequences? Because no action goes without consequences. Whether you think you got away from it or got away with it or not, there are consequences. Same way, if you do get caught, how do we deal with those consequences moving forward? Because you have to be genuine with them, which goes back to turning it over and seeing that driftwood as the way it is. we put on sometimes as Black men, some of us put on too many facades. I have to be fallible to my children. I have to be fallible to these young men. I have to let them know that if it wasn't but for a decision, I would be in the same position. And I have to be able to open my mouth to tell them those things. And then when they do make them, I don't condemn them, but I embrace them to help them get to the next level.
Right. Because that driftwood will also tear up your boat if you don't address it.
Yes, it will.
Come on here.
Hey, somebody replied. There was a comment on here, and Brother Dean Rael stated. He said, "Too much mothering and spoiling. Too much mothering and spoiling. Not enough fathering. Then these young women have to have a real effect on our young men by these days, or by being driven by their vices." I want to throw a question out there, right? And so we know that for in the Black community, that the Black woman has been consistent, right? And it's not. I'm going to preference this because I read history, I study history. So it's been an intentional attack on the Black man to remove him from the family. Ever since the release of slavery. And so before slavery, the Black man was viewed as being docile, being supportive, being very critical in the whole social cycle of the United States. But then after slavery, the demonization of the Black man began. It starting with the early movie, Birth of a Nation, and how it viewed the Black man as being, he's going to come in, rape your family, destroy your homes. Now, through slavery, the Black man was second, because remember, we were cattle, so we were considered cattle. And who carries the calf? The woman. So in many situations, the Black woman was placed above the Black man, even in that situation. But the Black man was necessary because he carries the seed. He carries the blood that creates the cattle. So, but as we look throughout society, we look throughout history, we see that everything from the infusion of alcohol and drugs into our community, everything from the inability to provide for our family social and economically, the inability when we're looking at pulling a large number of Black men into wartime practices where they kills or creates mental health issues or substance abuse issues, the imprisonment, right? We have the high imprisonment of the Black man, removing them from the community. All these things are things that play a part in removing Black men from the community, which forced our Black women to have to step up and be heads of homes. Without demeaning the Black woman, that's not what we do with No More Hiding and Manhood Moments. Without demeaning the Black woman, how do we develop the relationship with the young Black men, right? While at the same time saying we appreciate what Mama has done. Mama is a single mother. She's holding it down. She's getting them to football practice. She's getting them to the mentoring. She's getting them to school. How do we build that relationship without demeaning, but then also making sure that we acknowledge that the Black male is necessary?
I'm glad you asked that question. Let me jump out there real quick. And so don't know all of the background of the men that are here, as well as ones that are tying in on social media. Me, grew up in a single parent home, right? Born in Chicago, and moved from Chicago down to Springfield from an abusive relationship. My father was definitely abusive in our home. And so growing up in a single parent home, it did one of two things. It targeted me to want to become the father of which I never had. And so there was the streets, there was educated men from the church. So I had to really focus, right, as an individual on where do I want my life to be?
Amen.
And fast forward to tie into your question, Brother Rice, is I think we need to do the same thing that everyone should vibe for. Think about it. Encouragement for those single Black women that have raised the children. I tell my mom all the time, and she probably calls me 2 or 3 times a day, hey, just checking on you, how you doing? Or me calling her, hey, how you doing? Just to, keep that camaraderie going, that relationship going. And then I have an opportunity just to say, hey, I love you. So it's like the military, we should let ones know that we love them. So we should let all of the parents that are leading out know that we appreciate them setting the phase, but then we operate in the area of encouragement for the youth that we mentor. And I guess the last piece of that is on that encouragement piece. It's like men and women die for it, right? That recognition. We need to make sure that we recognize those parents. We recognize these youth that are raising up when they do extraordinary things. We recognize it. Hey, congratulations. You've made it from point A to point C. We send you kudos, whether it's Facebook, whether it's, a personal note in the mail, whatever the case may be, we need to recognize each individuals. And I'll pause right there and come back a little bit later. But I think that recognition is another aspect of that.
You know what? I would like to chime in and think about something that was just said. And then Brother Rice, as you were talking, one thing that hit me really hard, and I'm gonna just go into it, the mental health aspect, right? Because that was one of the things you mentioned. And I'm thinking about everything that we're talking about. A lot of our stories in some form or fashion come from pain. And I think about Vietnam, for example. Somebody can go to Vietnam for 6 months on tour. Some people have gone to Vietnam on 6 months on tour and be damaged for life. Right, 6 months to life. So just imagine what you mentioned about the slave thing, what happened in slavery, the oppression, the Jim Crow laws that continue then and now. So if 6 months affected somebody from life, then what do you think it's doing to us?
400 years, Brother Willis.
100 plus, half a century.
Plus.
So because this is a multifaceted problem, right, that we're dealing with. All right. So one of the things, as opposed, in addition to what the brother just said previously, I would say, address the problem, understand that, hey, we're not okay. So guess what? One of the solutions will be addressing the mental health, because it's definitely affected us mentally. This is why these relationships are poisonous right now.
Yep.
So I would definitely say we need to engage in that. But again, it's just one of the many facets of this machine that we're dealing with of the problem.
One thing, Dr. Rice, you asked, how can we, without demeaning the woman, reach our youth? That is the question that I understood you to ask. Okay, I don't know if anyone has ever been to one of the softball tournaments when I present the foot lockers. But what I do is I try to sterilize the environment in that only the brothers are around the foot locker recipients. And that one moment, and I use it as a passing a billboard, could change the direction for some people. And what I do is I ask all of the women, please let us have this moment. And very little pushback. Somehow, I don't know how, my mama ended up in the middle once. But but the thing is, what I'm getting at is, a lot of times, and I go back to Dr. Kunjufu, he said, for a lot of our young men, like Brother Willis said, a young man can easily make it to high school before he sees any Black man in responsibility, because his mother's running the house, all the women are running the schools, and until he's in high school before he sees a Black teacher, a Black male teacher. So as Brother Willis said, think about that. That's how long, that's 14 years of that environment not seeing. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, that's a maybe. They might get one.
Yeah, they might get a Black male teacher. So women are doing the best they can. And then let's face reality. Because of the way you all painted the picture of Jim Crowism, keeping the Black men out of certain circles, our reality is almost completely matriarchal. So it's like, while religion says the man's supposed to be the leader, sociology says man's supposed to be the leader, our reality is it's not happening. So a lot of times we're just coping with what we know, because we've never seen anything different. But that one moment for some young men, and I tell you, one young man told me, I didn't think that none of y'all, and he's talking about us, had time to spend like that with them. You know, he graduated from Sumner High School. And he said, I'm so glad that you gave me this Foot Locker. I'm going to do the best I can in college. I was probably one of the first men to try to encourage him like that.
Yeah, you know, that's powerful. I'm brother T. Patrick, I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna have we're gonna have a brother one that talks about the matriarchal impact, right? And so when we look at even our African experience, right, and we've been removed from our African experience, but looking at the impact and how the matriarchal experience is not really a bad thing if we know how to build it and develop the community, right? And so it does not remove the man, right? And so he poses a different view of this. So I'm gonna invite everybody to tune in. We'll make sure you know when we're gonna be doing that podcast. But go ahead, Brother T. Patrick.
I was gonna say, you know, there's been some important dialogue, you know, just in this this segment here. And I've shared this story before. You know, I'm very transparent, but you know, I have two sons. One of my sons has an IEP, and we're in an IEP meeting, and you know, he was very quiet, and my son is very opinionated. You know, I've raised him to be able to share his opinions by creating the safe space we kind of talked about. But I noticed he wasn't talking. And we're talking about him. And I look around the room, and it's his mom, it's me, him, and then a group of women that don't look like him, if you know what I mean. But we're all having a conversation about him. And, you know, I look to him and I say, well, why don't we ask him how he feels? You know, and I encouraged him to speak. And once he started speaking, he didn't shut up. So, you know what I mean? He was talking about all the things that he needed there, but I'm like, you know, that's and me and his mom, we divorced like years ago, so you know what I mean. But you know, I said all that to say, you know, it's important as we talked about it and shaping that identity. But I think also it is connecting with the woman, and I know that you know you know, I have a connection with this mom. We spent some time together, right? So you know, I can have that conversation, but I'll give another example. My 2-year-old daughter, she's a female, obviously. We talk about men, but I think this example is relevant. I know that she says, I can't do it. So when she gets frustrated and something she can't do, she said, I can't do it. And I just said to her, I said, you know, we're not going to say you can't do it. We're going to say you need help. And so I'm conditioning her to ask that. And I teach that to all of my children. Don't say you can't do it. Say I need help. Let's make that the first piece. The part that's relevant to this is I had the conversation with my mom. I said, we need to have support on that. So this is what I told her. This is what I'm saying to her. I want you to participate in helping me create that condition in her to think, before I say I can't do it, let me ask for help. And I think part of it is, and maybe I don't have all the answers, obviously, but maybe that's part of you know, supporting our single Black mothers by, when we give nuggets of information that's going to benefit the child, maybe having a conversation personally with the mom and say, hey, this is what we talked about, maybe reinforce this, because the idea is, you know, I want my son to be able to stand up for himself in a room where people might not look like him. Don't be afraid to speak up on that. Don't be afraid to ask for help if necessary. You know, I need you to be comfortable with that. And I think that's part of my contribution to trying to, you know, help their mothers, you know, figure out how do we raise Black men in the society. Because it really is it's a lot. It is a multifaceted issue, and we have to take a multifaceted approach to solving, through addressing the identity, through creating a safe space, through, you know, a lot of different things to get these, even to communicating with mothers to say, hey, this is what I taught your son, you know, so help reinforce that, so that when he's not with us for the 6 hours that we have, or whatever it might be, for them other 20, 29, 30 days, you know, this mindset is being you know, perpetuated outward. So
that's it. You know, brothers, man, we got some really good comments. I want to chime in, and then we're nearing the end. So, but Brother David Green said we have to find a way to convince the woman that the father is important in the child's life. Right now, they don't see the value in us due to their own lack of fatherhood in their lives. As it was stated, we have to enlighten the women to our history. Brother Gary Kelly, who's a phenomenal brother, he has a really good, he and his wife have a really good podcast. He said, the root of the issue is that everywhere our youth look, Black men are being devalued, i.e. music, media, encounter with police and others in authority. If we make them aware of their God-given value, they'll make better decisions in the company they keep, choices they make, environments that they enter or build for themselves, as it is human nature to protect that which we value. You have, when you leave home, your vehicle, your business, you lock the door because you value it or its content. As a young lady won't give a guy that they just met their bank card or house keys, but they give them their bodies, which show that there's a problem in their value system. The same applies for our young men, and that's powerful. We have to teach, Brother Tyler talked about that, teaching our young men, we have to teach them, you know, how to choose the right partners in which they connect themselves to, right, on any level. Brother Eddie Pierce said, maybe as men, it starts with asking the women in question, how can we best support them in their children and in the children in their lives? That opens a dialogue and it builds from there. Right. And then he stated that Brother Evans speaks to an African tradition of how the villager time has separate gatherings for the two genders. Many African traditions are matriarchal and they work. This is Brother Eddie Pierce. He says, he said, how do when as Black people embrace the most marginalized in our communities, which includes the LGBTQA youth, those who don't practice Christian traditions common to us as Black people, and those who don't fit the singing, dancing, ball stereotypes. Our communities would never reach its maximum potential until the village embraces all. Right. And so, man, we got some great dialogue. Brothers, I told you all, man, when we got together, that this was going to flow and it was going to move pretty quickly, man. And so I'm thinking that we may have to come back like with a part two of you all, an open man, and be able to really have this dialogue. I want to throw it out there. I know our co-hosts, we love doing those second parts and making sure that we really have these good conversations. But before we wrap it up, right, it's our tradition to make sure that we give everybody a moment to share their nugget of wisdom from the conversation and just period, dealing with the topic that we're talking about. So we're going to start that off. I'm going to start it off with Brother Evans. I'm going to ask you if you give us about a minute or so, share a nugget of wisdom about anything reflective of our conversation that the people can take with them. Brother Evans.
One thing I would say is I know that we all have mentoring programs. And I love the positive energy that we had. Let's try to be positive when we talk to our youth, because as you stated, that they are our future. And please remember, as we're trying to grow, every tree starts as a seed. And when you plant that seed and you grow that tree, your fruits will come back. And that's why I can say I helped a young man become an officer in the Army, or I helped a young man graduate from St. Louis College of Pharmacy. I'm not bragging, I'm humbled by the fact, but also remember that we may be the catalyst to a decision, as you stated, about choosing friends. And like I said, my billboard philosophy, you drive on the highway at 55 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour, and you see a billboard, and that phrase may change your mind. Sometimes we're the billboard. And when that young man, for instance, real quick, a young man once tugged on my shoulder and said, sir, are you a Q dog? And I said, yes, I am. Why did you ask? And he may have been 12. And he said, my cousin's one. And so he saw me again and he waved. I said, are you going to be a Q dog? Now, as I stated, you don't have to join any of our fraternities. But the fact that he wants to be a Q dog means that puts high school graduation on autopilot. The going to college and trying. If he changes his mind, I'm fine. But if he gets into a college, it's up to that school to say, hey, man, you know, I'm looking at your test scores. You would be better in criminal justice, or you need to talk to the engineering department. But getting him into the school. Don't give up before you try. Like I tell my son, some people, you got to be careful about the company you keep, because some people will stop at the speed bump and then they'll discourage you from trying to cross that speed bump. And I'm done.
Oh man, awesome words, my brother. And so I'm gonna, Brother Aaron Willis, talk to us a little bit. Give us a minute, man, of nuggets of wisdom that you gained from this conversation.
All right. Well, first, man, I just want to say that I appreciate being on the platform, and I learned something from all of the brothers, man. And I think that one thing that I guess I can say, one common thing that I got from everything is having introspective, you know, looking inside ourselves to see what we could do to improve and to help those around us. And so from that, I would say from that introspective, we must continue to learn. And just as Brother Evans was talking about the chess program, because chess is all about thinking about possible outcomes or making a decision. However, don't stifle your progress on making a decision. You have to make some kind of choice, right? But whatever that outcome is, we learn from.
Oh, you muted yourself, Brother Willis. You muted.
My apologies. I'm sorry. I was saying that, you know, don't allow, you know, we must think about our decisions, whatever the outcomes are, but don't allow it to stifle us. We still got to make a decision. Learn from our mistakes, you know, whatever they are, but don't be afraid of making them, because that's how we learn. And I'll say this and I'm done, man. It's the reason that pencils come with erasers, but guess what? That pencil still must write. That's all I got to say.
Man, words of wisdom. It's the reason why that pencil came with an eraser. Man, great words of wisdom. I appreciate you being here. Brother Hemingway, what's going on? Talk to us, share us, man. Give us those final words of wisdom.
Man, I'm truly humbled, man, being amongst the greatest here, man. Quick words of wisdom, I would say, from a humanistic approach, bro. Just really be genuine. One of the things I like to do is being naked and not ashamed. As mentoring, we have to be naked and not ashamed with these young men as they grow into their development of life. And the last piece I would say is, you know, being a boy is a matter of gender, but being a man is a matter of responsibility. If nobody get anything else about what I said on tonight, this afternoon, this morning, being a boy is a matter of gender, but being a man is a matter of responsibility. And we're here to help them shape that responsibility in life. Back to you, bro.
Man, that's it. That's it. You know, and our goal is to move past just being a gender to being a man, being responsible. That's what I'm talking about. Brother Tyler, man, talk to us. Give us some words of wisdom.
Man, I'm humbled by this experience. Thank you guys for the invites. A lot of knowledge in here, and I'm listening and soaking and taking it all in. My thoughts would be to stay connected, stay engaged. After our mentoring completes his course from 12th grade, you got to stay engaged with them. You never know what's going on with their life. So it's life after college. It's life after the trade school. You never know how you're going to impact someone's life or a decision. So that's what I got. You got to have that traceability aspect with them, go not just within the program, but afterwards, because they're going to need that.
That's it, man. That's it. We got, and I love that concept that you brought earlier. We gotta track them, man. Tracking them even to marriage and that first 5 years and things like that. That's how we're gonna change the path of things, man. It's take them up under our wings and then teach them how to take others up under their wings, man. So, man, great jobs. I appreciate you being here. Brother Morrison, talk to us, man. Give us some words of wisdom.
Again, thank you for the opportunity to commune with you brothers, man. I am inspired and invigorated to know that I'm not alone. You know what I mean? Like, we are all out here across St. Louis doing the work. I would like to put out a challenge to every Black man on listening to your cast, live or recorded, in the future. And I'd like to say, I'd like to challenge them to engage a young Black male that is not in your home. Engage them, support them, You don't have to be Superman. You don't have to be in the home, but you have to be consistent in their lives. It can be a neighbor. And to answer that question earlier, how do you get to that point with the Black woman or with the parents or the family? Go back to the scripture and show yourself approved. Be a man, be an honorable man, be a respectable man, keep your dick in your pants, like the basics, man. And just show yourself approved. Be consistent, handle your business, pay your bills, and there's a child next door or on your block that you see daily. Knock on the family's door and say hello. And everybody has a different dynamic, but you also have a cousin. You also have a brother-in-law, son-in-law. Somebody with a young Black male who needs a grown man as guidance. And so that's my challenge out.
Man, I appreciate that. And many of us on here, we are moving into that pawpaw and moving past that direct parenting stage. I love it personally. I love, being in this grandfather stage because I can, spoil them and send them home or what have you, and that's a beautiful thing to be. I tell them, I say, I'm trying to get to heaven now. So they like, Dad, you don't whoop them like you used to. I say, yeah, because, them days over with. I ain't got to do it. That's your job. So my job is to spoil now. And so, man, I'm excited about that. Brother Wilson, what's going on? Give us some words of wisdom.
Well, again, I'm humbled to be around all your brothers. And as I was sitting here, I was just reflecting just a little bit. My father said something to me that it was the very first time that I ever seen him shed a tear. He said, I raised you to be a man, and you taught me how to be a man. He said that to me after I had just finished teaching a men's ministry class. And you can raise a person to do all these things, but raising a person does not teach them anything. You have to spend that quality time with them. You have to expose yourself, all the things that we've been discussing all the way through here. And a lot of times men go through the motion of raising a child, but never bother to teach that child anything. The other thing that I reach out and I tell all of my kids, or any child that I come into contact, you never fail at anything that you keep trying at, because you learn something. I never have failed at anything because I got up, pulled myself up, got encouraged by somebody, and I tried. The old saying, nothing beats a failure but to try. And so as long as you're still trying, you have not failed. And as long as you're learning from your mistakes or your past. And then when we do that, we have to have a rowboat mentality about the past. We see it, but we're going a whole different direction. Again, I thank you for having this. I look forward to engaging with all of you. And Brother Evans, we do owe y'all because we go over to East St. Louis and enter that chess tournament all the time. And
thank you so much.
We're over there, and y'all keep bringing these ringers in there, but we got something for you this time.
That's Kappa Alpha Psi.
Yes, wait a minute, y'all bring in y'all ringers too. But our boys sure enough showed you a couple of things the last time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad that you bring your young men, and it's a great time. And I'm looking forward to when we can do that face-to-face again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know those noobs, man. They have, I don't know where they're getting them Major League Baseball players that be out there playing softball. They say they a team, but
we got to start betting them before they come out.
be like AAU. Get the birth certificates out.
This has been a great conversation, man. I gotta pass it to our co-host, man. And I couldn't do this without their support and without them showing up every first and third Saturday. These brothers, they pour into me, and so, but before I do that, the person you don't see behind the scene is my wife. She's doing doing a lot of the administrative stuff and keeping us on track and say, okay, it's time, so I got to give a shout out to my wife for everything that she does to invest in this ministry, man, and what we're doing. But Brother T Bird, talk to us, man. Give us a word of wisdom.
I just want to say to you, brothers, man, I appreciate everything that you said, all the comments, all the feedback. I had one question. I didn't get a chance to throw it out there, but my brother Tyler, you answered the question. I think it's important that we interact with these kids during a certain period, but the goal is what afterwards. When they go to college, do they have somebody they can call and say, hey man, I'm not doing good in class, my finances are doing bad, or that they're trade school and something's going on, that they know there's a brother they can call and talk to just help them out, even just listen to. So you guys kind of said, as far as being naked, brother Hemingway say that it's all about being vulnerable to the kids and just allowing them to talk to us, and we impart our wisdom in them, even our mistakes, because they can learn from our mistakes as well. So I just thank all you brothers for everything you said, and I enjoy listening.
That's it, man. I'm telling you, this ranks high up on our podcast. Just this experience, and just I kind of felt that it was going to be powerful, and we're going to do that part two. So we're going to talk about it after we go offline and see what brothers are available. Brother T. Patrick, talk to me a little bit. What do you think? Give me some words of wisdom.
Hey, brothers, I don't know if I have words of wisdom at this point, but I do want to acknowledge and thank each and every one of you for the important work you've done, or that you're doing at this particular point with our Black youth. As a leader in the workforce, I think it's extremely important. I've had this question, which I find that, I'm able to mentor Black females a lot easier than Black males. And maybe looking at this discussion, I think what I've learned, my takeaway might be, I need to reach them a little bit earlier, and not when they get to the workforce. So that's homework for me to try to figure that out. And I got that from each and every one of you guys sharing your perspective. But again, I really appreciate the work. Salute each and every one of you for the time that you're giving, because it's not something that you have to do. It's something you want to do. So that's commendable.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so I'm going to wrap this thing up, man. Once again, I want to thank everybody for just being a part of this, man. The brothers who joined us today, we got Brother Aaron Willis and Brother Keenan Morrison from Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. We have Brother Larry Hemingway and Brother Gregory Wilson from Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. We have Brother Barry Evans from Omega Psi Phi, who's also my brother in Prince Hall Masonry, for joining us. We got Brother Terry Tyler for joining us from Kappa Alpha Psi, man. And so if you didn't get a chance, I'm going to invite those who are listening to this podcast after the fact. There are several things that's going on in the area. We have the Widowmaker softball tournament that's going to be coming up. And we also have the Village, which is sponsored by our brother Morrison. We have Project Manhood. We have a lot of things, the Kappa League, the Sigma Beta, the AMPS. These are all organizations that's geared toward working with mentoring young men and our young people. So there's too much in the community to not be involved, to not have a young person, your son, your nephew, your grandson, get them involved. And all of these focus on different areas, everything from IT to finance to just overall holistic mentoring. We want to invite you. We also have Springfield and East St. Louis that's represented here with the Urban League, and also the work that they're doing over in the East St. Louis side with our brothers. So either side of the river, if you're joining in, we're going to invite you every first and third Saturday. Join us with Manhood Moments. The focus of Manhood Moments is to create an authentic space and a voice for men to be able to have conversations about critical issues from all of our, every period of our lives. And so every first and third Saturday at 9:30, we're here. Right now, I'm out of town, but I'm committed. My co-host, we're committed to making sure that we provide you with some of the best educational content that's out there. And what you're hearing from is you're hearing from Black men who are everyday brothers. You could see them in the grocery store. You could see them walking down the street. You could see them in your church pulpits. You can see them at their places of business. You can see them with their family. See, we're just touchable Black men who've committed to being servants in the community. So that's what No More Hiding is about. It's about creating authentic spaces. Every first and third Saturday, Also, every fourth Saturday, we have what we call our brotherhood check-in. This is a private virtual brotherhood conversation. We start at 5 o'clock. I send out the Zoom link to those brothers that want to be a part. And we talk about all types of issues that deal with men. We talk about being a father. We talk about being a husband. Some brothers going through divorce. Some brothers going through financial challenges. We have brothers who are going through trying to get custody of their kids. This is just a space for us to encourage one another, check in with one another, make sure everything is good, right? And we just being our brother's keeper, we being our brother's encourager. So if you're listening in, please feel free to join us. Finally, on social media, we're on Twitter, we're also on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We have a private page on Facebook called NMH for Men. That's our private page where brothers can engage in conversation and be able to share their thoughts and things like that. So we invite you to be a part of everything that's happening. Once we move past this pandemic and this COVID, you're going to start to see more outside activities among brothers in the community. So we're excited for everything that's going on. As always, Lord, we thank and praise you for this day. We thank you for the men that's gathered here, the organizations that's represented, the places and the communities that they impact. Well, I ask that you would touch them. I ask that you would bless them, Lord, that you would not allow them to lose anything, that their influence and their territory will be expanded. Remember, everyone that participated today, listening virtually or maybe listening in now in the recorded session, we ask that you would bless them, Lord, that you would touch them wherever they are, Lord God, because we believe that this is the time to come out of hiding. We thank and we praise you now. In the most holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. So once again, thank you for joining us today.
Amen.
And we look forward to talking to you